everybody, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead Jeffries, and this is the daily show where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us this morning is your Collider Movie Talk crew. First up, senior producer Jon Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video headquarters here in Burbank, California. And it was so hard. I was trying to figure out, why is Mark insisting that Katy Perry was riding a wrecking ball at the Super Bowl? I couldn't figure it out.
Also here is writer-director Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, thanks to that trailer, that song is back in my head. It took months to get out of my head.
And now
song
it's
is
back
in my head. How's it going, everybody?
And the guy who confused Katy Perry with Miley Cyrus.
The thing is, I was involved in a chat roulette last night, okay? And things got a little out of the hand. My ratio wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Right.
20 to 1. 20 to 1. It was 15 to 1.
Wow.
Miley Cyrus performs the tune Wrecking Ball for all you kids at home.
I like how you say you were on chat roulette and things got out of hand, as if to suggest that just by getting on chat roulette in the first place is not already things getting out of hand.
It was a normal night for Mark Ellis.
That's right.
And then he logged on to the information superhighway.
And now he's a carrot. Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay, according to a report in The Wrap, actor Channing Tatum and Fox Studios have apparently run into problems which may result in Tatum leaving the upcoming Gambit feature film. The story claims that an individual close to the project said that Tatum's reps are still in active discussions with the studio, but have acknowledged that something is up. The situation is a confusing one, considering that just a few weeks ago, Tatum was at the San Diego Comic-Con promoting the upcoming project for Fox. Jon, do you believe this story? And if so, what do you think will come of it?
Okay, well, before anything else, and you knew I had to talk about this today, I first found out about this story yesterday because of several, even really good, like normally very, very solid websites, ran the headline that I saw, Channing Tatum exits Gambit. And there's another reputable, Channing Tatum leaves Gambit. And everybody's tweeting me, did you hear that Channing Tatum left Gambit? And all these sites are quoting The Wrap. And The Wrap is saying that Channing Tatum has left. Well, then I went and read the article at The Wrap. And it said no such thing. It said that things are in trouble. He may leave. They're in active negotiations. They're talking through it. They're trying to work things out. So for everybody who's tweeting me, asking me, hey, is it true that Channing Tatum has left Gambit? No, it's not true. He has not left Gambit. But apparently, something is up, though. And it does raise the question of what the hell happened? Because this was a done deal. He was at Comic-Con. He's been posing for pictures of, hey, everybody, I'm Gambit. Look at me eating gumbo, all that kind of stuff. And everything seemed totally solid. I mean, something went down. Now, obviously, what happened here is obvious. The Fox studio executives yesterday were watching Collider Movie Talk. Yeah. And they heard us talking.
We were questioning the $150 million budget.
And they went, you know what? Schnepp and Campea got a point. And then they called, they called Tatum up and said, we're going to cut you back down to some Magic Mike level numbers here.
That's right.
And now he's mad.
He flipped the table. Things got weird. Photos were taken.
Chat roulette got loaded up. I don't know what was going on.
That's the issue. He can't stop dancing on set. It's like, we need you to stop stripping. Gambit needs that trench coat, Channing. Okay, you got to keep that thing on.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Something, though, went down because when it says they're negotiating, this isn't the basic contract negotiations because those were done. Mm-hmm. Something has happened behind the screen. And we have no idea what it is. Whether it was a Fox executive going, we need to rethink this $150 million budget thing, or whether it was something totally different, whether it was a casting decision that Channing didn't like, because Channing and his production partner are also on as producers of the film, whether they want to take him off as a producer to still start. I mean, I don't know. There's 1,000 different possibilities. We don't know what it is. Ultimately, and I'm just taking a shot in the dark here, I don't think this is going to turn out to be anything. I do think at the end of the day, Channing Tatum is going to be our Gambit. And I have no problem with that. I've been a very critical guy of Channing Tatum as an actor for many, many years. But in the last couple of years, he's finally started to find his groove. He's improved. He's learned over the years. And now comedically, he's great. And he's actually become quite serviceable dramatically. And now you put him some of the Gambit. I think he could work. Is he my first choice? No. But ultimately, I do think he's going to be our Gambit, but obviously something big's going on behind the scenes. Mark, how do you see all this?
I think he will be our Gambit, and I think that we can speculate all day about what is causing this report. Is it the fact that he's making too much on it, or maybe because he's a producer on the project or an exec producer, he gets points on the back end, then they look at the $150 million budget, they're like, well, maybe we need to step back a little bit. Maybe what they wanted to cut out of the movie to reduce the budget, Channing Tatum wasn't happy with and said, no, we need this stuff in there. So I'm not sure what went down, but I think that it is something that got out that they didn't want to get out. That I don't think Channing Tatum wants to leave the project. I think he wants to be Gambit. We proved it when he was at Comic-Con and he took that selfie with literally every other superhero in the Fox Marvel universe. Like, you don't want to be that other Cunningham brother from Happy Days who just went up the stairs and never reappeared. You want to be in this universe. Maybe it's something with future movies going forward too. Maybe it's not necessarily focused on this Gambit film. It could be what the future of X-Men and his role in that universe it holds. So I think that he will ultimately be our Gambit, but it's annoying when you hear this stuff and you start to worry that if how much smoke is going to lead to fire.
Right.
Schnepp?
I honestly think it is something to do with them announcing, not our movie talk episode yesterday, but it has something to do with that announcement of the $150 million budget, which probably wasn't supposed to get out. They were probably supposed to release, look, we're going to be shooting for 4 months in October, but they weren't ready to announce their budget yet because it probably hasn't been shored up, is my guess, or they're trying to figure it out. Because it does seem quite astronomical to me, $150 million
for a Gambit movie. Yeah.
Especially when we've been hearing from the trades everywhere, like, oh, Deadpool, 40, 50 million. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it just feels weird. So that's my guess, is that something went down after that news popped off, and then, tables were flipped. Some people, some tempers got it, things got leaked. But I'm sure it'll work itself out.
And reading the actual report, like John said, from the Wrap, what Snyder actually wrote is that this isn't a situation that like escalated to the point of, oh no, I'm leaving the project.
Right.
Like, I think that cooler heads will prevail here. I think this is just something that came up in a meeting and now it got out there somehow.
All right. What's next?
As many of you know, a feature film project based on the popular mobile game Five Nights at Freddy's is currently in development, and now it looks like they found their director. According to Report and Deadline, Gil Keenan, director of such films as Monster House, City of Ember, and the new Poltergeist, has been brought on to write and direct the new film. Five Nights at Freddy's challenges players to survive for 5 nights as a security guard in a demented pizza entertainment restaurant, where homicidal possessed animatronics roam the halls in search of their next victims. Mark, do you think Keenan is a good fit for a film like Five Nights at Freddy's?
I just cannot tell you how much I love this concept as a film, how it could be like Night at the Museum meets Toy Story meets Child's Play, an amalgam of all of those. It sounds like so much fun. Gil Keenan being the director, to me, I want to give this guy a shot, because I watched the new Poltergeist and I was ready to hate it. It looked awful from the trailers. He actually built up some suspense and had some nice moments of horror in the first half of that film. Where that film failed was when it had to follow the classic Poltergeist model and couldn't quite get away from it. Now that Gil Keenan is writing and directing this, he has all the freedom in the world to do whatever he wants with this source material, and I think that he's earned a shot at making something like this. And let's be honest, if Five Nights at Freddy's isn't great, like, I'm not gonna quit my life.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, that was my Star Wars. Like,
Right. Ruined my childhood.
Yeah, it could be fun. It seems like it's gonna be a great blend of humor and action and horror. So let's give this guy a chance.
I like this news, to be honest with you, because I thought he did a very nice job. And Poltergeist, look, everybody just acknowledged right up front, Poltergeist is a tall order to fill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you get handed that as a director, and I thought he did a pretty decent job on it. I really like what he did with Monster House, City of Ember. He did a really nice job with that type of material. Now, we're moving into Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not quite sure what approach you're going to take. Are they going to go like a hard R kind of thing? Are they going to go with like a Goosebumps PG thing that's going to be more kid-friendly? A lot is up in the air. One of the things I love about this game, though, that I think will lend itself well to the movie is it has a little bit of a Portal feel to it, in that Portal is actually incredibly funny because it's got this the computer voice constantly talking about there will be cake, you know, all that kind of stuff in Portal, and the answering machine stuff from the old, from the old security guard in the game is just hilarious. Some really, really funny stuff. So there's a lot of potential here. A lot will have to do what tone they want to go for, how they're going to rate this thing. But right now on the surface, I think this is a good match. So I like the news.
Yeah, it sounds to me like it'll be like an action comedy with some scares. Like, I don't think it'll be a hard R. I think they're going to go for like, a fun kind of family adventure, but with these weird, teddy bear animatronics that look really creepy. I like the idea of it. Sounds great. And I think Gil Keenan is a good director. I thought he did a great job with Monster House. I didn't like City of Ember, but that's just I didn't like the story, or it just felt like a bad execution of Logan's Run or something. But I think this is a cool idea. It's original, so I'm looking forward to it.
And it's something that you always think about in the back of your head that could happen at Chuck E. Cheese after hours. That you always imagine the country bears can come to life and start killing people. Now it's finally going to happen.
As a kid, I joke, as a young kid, because I had I have 3 younger siblings, and so they're also like 4 or 5 years younger than me. So I'm like 12, right? Or I'm like 11 years old, and I got these 4 and 5-year-old siblings running around. So they got all these stuffed animals. My parents loved getting them stuffed animals. And I would remember as a young kid, 10, 11 years old, planning out my contingency plan if these things come to life and decide to start attacking us. I remember, okay, we got to get the cushions from the Chesterfield and make a fort over here to barricade the thing up. And that's basically what this game has come to life.
You were like the Liam Neeson of Showbiz Pizza. You had a very particular set of skills.
I was ready. Okay, you laugh at me now, but if those things came to life, we'll see. We'll see who's knocking on my fort to ask for protection at the time.
Little Mark Ellis. I didn't know they were real teddy bear choking him out. Yeah, kangaroo hopping on him.
All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Sinead's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Sinead, what do we got?
Matt Damon and director Paul Greengrass are already set to return to the Bourne film universe and will begin production on Bourne 5 shortly. And according to a report from Variety, they'll be joined by Academy Award-winning actor Tommy Lee Jones. Little is known about the new film other than it will not feature a crossover with Jeremy Renner. I can't talk right now. Jeremy Renner, who starred in the previous installment of the franchise. Schnepp, do you buy or sell Tommy Lee Jones joining Bourne 5?
Sure, I buy Tommy Lee Jones. He's a great actor. He's been amazing in certain films like No Country for Old Men. I love him in a lot of films. Sometimes, it's hit or miss with him, but most of the time it's a hit. He's a great character actor, so I buy it 100%.
I'm going to buy this for the main reason that I see him playing the same kind of character in this movie that he played in The Fugitive. The Fugitive, which, by the way, he won his Academy Award in that. He was awesome in that kind of role. Actually, that one of my favorite one-line deliveries ever is that when in the Fugitive, when Harrison Ford's at the edge of the opening, over the waterfall, and Tommy Lee Jones is on this end, he's got his gun, and Harrison Ford says, "I didn't kill my wife," and Tommy Lee Jones just goes, the way he said it, "I don't care." I mean, there was so much in the way he said that line that was so great. You look at Tommy Lee Jones and you don't think this guy can do anything action-oriented, but I think he still can. He's a terrific actor. I think if he plays the same kind of character they did in The Fugitive, I think this is going to be a winner. So for that and many other reasons, I buy this.
If you're going to try to put another authority figure in here looking for Jason Bourne, and you want to top David Strathairn and Brian Cox and Joan Allen, you need to search every in-house, outhouse, farmhouse, and doghouse in that area, and they found Tommy Lee Jones.
Good callback,
this
good
is the
reference.
guy to play this role.
That's
I can't wait to see this. And I'm thinking even more recently in his film history, something like Captain America, when he just played that guy who he is so convinced that he is doing right for his country. It's the same kind of premise for Bourne, because he's not like I don't think he's in his mind, he's necessarily a bad guy. He's looking for this crazy rogue agent who's made a lot of trouble for the CIA over his years. So he's the guy you call in when you need to put a stop to this. It's weird that we took 5 movies to have to put a stop to this, but now Tommy Lee Jones, we don't know where he was for the first. That's the question I have, is where the hell was Tommy Lee Jones during the first 3 movies when we were looking for Matt Damon? Like,
He's hanging out with Jeremy Renner.
That's right.
Was he
Training Renner.
Yeah, like was he off fighting Thanos? Where was this guy when we needed to get rid of Bourne? You got to explain that to me, but I'm sure the film will do a fantastic job of that. This is great news.
Now, the one thing, though, I'll say about this is I will not. I don't usually do the press junkets anyway. I will not do this press junket. I will not. Tommy Lee Jones is notoriously the worst guy ever for press junkets. We told this story at the 100 million view party that we had back in at the end of last year. But I remember, like, all these stories. Tommy Lee Jones is terrible. Tommy Lee Jones is terrible. We had this movie coming up, and I can't even remember which one it was. But Tommy Lee Jones, and we sent Amy Rose to go cover the junket. And so Amy Rose sits down with Tommy Lee Jones, and she asks him this really great question she put together. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Yes." awkward pause, and Amy Rose is like, recovers, okay, whatever. And then she asks this long, really insightful question. Tommy Lee Jones. No. And that's it. That was it. And I remember me and Dennis are standing around our editing computer and just going, we have an interview here with one of the greatest actors of all time, and we are not going to put this out. We are not going to use it. He's awful. So I can't wait to see him in the movie, but I ain't going to talk to him about it. No way. All right, what's next?
According to a report in The Wrap, Star Trek star Chris Pine is heading to the DC cinematic universe as Steve Trevor, the traditional love interest of the most iconic female superhero of all time, Wonder Woman. The assumption is that Pine will make his debut as Trevor in the standalone Wonder Woman film on June 23rd, 2017. John, do you buy or sell Chris Pine as Steve Trevor?
I like Chris Pine, and oddly enough, I'm going to sell this for a couple of reasons. One, from a marketing point of view, this doesn't make much sense. Pine in Star Trek I think he's been a great Captain Kirk. I think he's been wonderful. But he has not demonstrated any ability to attract an audience outside of that franchise. Look, Horrible Bosses, the first one, made over $200 million worldwide. Bring in Chris Pine. The box office dropped in half. Obviously, that is not all of his fault, obviously. But it just goes to prove that adding him to it didn't increase thing. That movie that he was in with the limousine, Stretch.
Yeah, Stretch.
You know, no studio thought this can make any money. Nobody believed in Chris Pine's ability to bring in an audience, so it became a straight to VOD thing. And then he had that other big franchise handed to him, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, and that kind of tanked. So he hasn't demonstrated any ability to draw in an audience. So from a business point of view, I don't really see the logic in bringing in a Chris Pine. He also hasn't blown my socks off. Now, Zephyr Zachariah is coming out. And that could be his crown jewel. This could be Chris Pine's, because he's got two heavyweight actors that he's acting alongside of, including Chiwetel Ejiofor, who I believe is one of the best in the business right now. And maybe that becomes his real calling card. So I just don't see any reason to be excited about this particular casting, even though I like Chris Pine quite a bit. Anyway, Schnepp, what about you?
I'm going to buy it. I mean, I know we were talking about whether he's going to be Green Lantern or the new Hal Jordan, but he's been circling the DC universe for a while. Now he's going to play Wonder Woman's love interest. I buy it. I think he's a great actor. He's also a really great comedic actor. Like we saw in Stretch, he's done a lot of incredibly funny roles. And I liked
him in Horrible Bosses too. I actually thought he was pretty good in Horrible Bosses.
Yeah, no, he was. He was one of the highlights of that bad, horrible film. Yeah, I buy it. I think he's a good actor, and maybe he's going to get a chance to shine a little bit more and stretch in a different way in this film. So
nobody loves this news more than Tyrese, because he's this much closer to being the next Green Lantern. Right. I'm going to buy this news for actually the same reason that John sold it, is because he's not going to overshadow what this movie is, and this is going to be about
good point.
Wonder Woman. This is her movie. You don't want to put Tom Cruise as the love interest. You don't want to put Will Smith as the love interest, because they're going to overshadow what this movie is about, which is the origin story, getting to know Wonder Woman. Chris Pine has proven he can step into a franchise like a Star Trek and be great in whatever role they give him and not buckle under the pressure. He can deliver on that. He's a good actor, but he's not such a marquee name that you're going to be like, oh, well, it's Chris Pine and then some, broad named Wonder Woman. No, this is about Wonder Woman. This is her story. And then Chris Pine is a solid actor that people have heard of that's going to lend credibility to the universe.
That's a great point. All right, what's next?
A couple of new Red Band trailers have surfaced, and we start with comedy, as the first trailer for The Night Before has hit the web. The film stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, and Anthony Mackie as friends since childhood, and for a decade, their yearly Christmas Eve reunion has been an annual night of debauchery and hilarity. Now that they're entering adulthood, the tradition is coming to an end, so to make it as memorable as possible, they set out to find the Nutcracker Ball, the holy grail of Christmas parties. Mark, do you buy or sell the trailer for The Night Before?
Sinead's description just gave me more story than the trailer did, and I'm buying the hell out of this thing. This looks hysterical. This could be the funniest movie of the year. You get these three guys. Joseph Gordon-Levitt can do comedy. Anthony Mackie can do comedy. We don't primarily know them for that, but they're really funny people. And obviously Seth Rogen's hysterical, coming off something like The Interview. This is definitely going to be released in theaters, so get excited for that. I think this is going to be hilarious. The trailer made me laugh a lot. I'd recommend watching the Red Band trailer. Had some nice jokes. Didn't give away too much story. There's going to be a lot more surprises once you actually see the movie. I'm locked in.
I totally buy this trailer. And that image that we got behind us here, it is one of the funniest moments in the trailer. There's not even any dialogue. It's just him flashing that to a bunch of rabbis sitting at a table. And the rabbis see him flash, and the rabbis are just like... Like, it was so badass. So good. Now, you know how sometimes we look at something and say, oh, that's just a poor man's version of this? This movie looks like a rich man's version of that Miles Teller, Zac Efron, Michael B. Jordan film that was out the other year. I can't remember the name of it now at this point.
I think Night's in the title somewhere.
Yeah, something like that. But three friends, 2 white dudes and a black dude, and we're going out for a thing of misadventures. I mean, it's okay, whatever. But the trailer really was fantastic to me. I found myself grinning and smiling through the whole thing. And the girl who plays Rogen's wife, the same girl who's in 22 Jump Street, who plays ultimately the bad guy, the ultimate bad guy in 22 Jump. I thought that was Amy Schumer, by the way. Whenever people talked about Amy Schumer, I thought they talked about the girl from 22 Jump Street. It's not, but I loved her in 22 Jump Street.
Great.
I'm excited to see her in this, so for me, it's a buy.
Yeah, it's a buy for me too. The trailer looked really funny. It's gonna be it's like a bad Santa. It's gonna be that Christmas movie that you watch again and again and again. That's what it felt like to me. Just from the trailer, it seemed like it has really memorable moments, memorable scenes. Seth Rogen looks like he's stealing the film just from the trailer, like him throwing up in the church. It's fantastic. I mean, there's so many memorable scenes. I mean, it's just, I 100% buy this trailer.
And it comes out in November, and I was a little shocked to see the November, and I know that Christmas starts in like September now, but seeing that, I think that would have been great counter-programming against Star Wars The Force Awakens when it comes out in theaters December 18th, but I guess they're trying to get the jump on that, but this looks like it's going to kick off the holiday season in a really funny fashion.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's next?
Next up, it's the first trailer for the new Michael Bay film, 13 Hours. The film is based on the book of the same name, which is described as follows. 13 Hours presents, for the first time ever, the true account of the events of September 11, 2012, when terrorists attacked the U.S. State Department's Special Mission Compound and a nearby CIA station called the Annex in Benghazi, Libya. A team of 6 American security operators fought to repel the attackers and protect the Americans stationed there. Those men went beyond the call of duty, performing extraordinary acts of courage and heroism to avert tragedy on a much larger scale. This is their personal account, never before told, of what happened during the 13 hours of that now infamous attack. Schnepp, do you buy or sell the trailer for 13 Hours?
Yeah, I buy it. I mean, you're watching this trailer, and I got really into the trailer, and then Michael Bay's name pops up, and you're like, oh my God, right, it's Michael Bay. But then I give him a pass because, I mean, Pain and Gain, he's done some good films. So this looks like a good film to me. I mean, it looks like a story I want to see the end of. I want to see what these guys did. Did they help save everybody? I'm hoping that they did. I don't know. I guess I could just, because it's based on a true story, I could Google this and look it up and be like, man, everybody died. That'd be horrible. Those guys with the beards. But I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a pretty amazing film. And it looks incredibly well shot. It looks exciting, so I'm buying it.
You know, I'm going to buy this trailer. I defy anybody to say it's not a good trailer. It's a good trailer. And you know what? Sometimes I've got this little game I play where sometimes when a trailer comes out by a filmmaker that everybody likes, but I didn't think it was a very good trailer, but everybody raves about it, I say, look, you take out the name Christopher Nolan off that trailer, or you take off the name Martin Scorsese, you take off the name and put in the name Michael Bay, you would all be acknowledging that it's a bad trailer. But because it says the name Martin Scorsese, whatever, we say it's a good trailer. The reverse is going to happen here. There are going to be some people who just look at this trailer and see the name Michael Bay, and they're just going to discount it. And I would say, have this exact same trailer, take out the name Michael Bay, and put in the name Christopher Nolan or whoever else like that, and you're raving about this trailer. This is a good trailer. Yeah. Let's give credit where credit is due. And John Krasinski, man, as much as I love the guy, every time I see him in anything, I can't help it. All I see is Jim. All I see is Jim from The Office. I saw no Jim. Right. There is no Jim in this trailer. He looks like a badass, certified badass. And, you know, this, as a Canadian, this is one of those things where I'm not really well read on the whole Benghazi incident. I don't really know what happened there. I hear it all the time, but I don't really know it. So I'm really and I hope I don't hear anything more about it until I see the movie. I'm fascinated now to go in and watch this movie and watch it unfold. Overall, I really thought this was a solid trailer. And so for me, it's a buy.
It's a phenomenal true story. And yes, you should definitely Google it. Do not chat roulette it. Just research it for yourself because it really is amazing what happened just a couple years ago. And you're right. I watched the trailer and I expected to see the name like Catherine Bigelow or Peter Berg come up. Michael Bay doing this movie. What an advertisement for him as a filmmaker. Right. And usually we were talking about the Five Nights at Freddy's, right? With Gil Kenan being handcuffed by Poltergeist, by that material. the opposite is true for Michael Bay. I think it's great that this guy is handcuffed by a true story that happened recently that people are aware of, that you can fact check, so we can't have all this stupid random action like what he did in Transformers. This action to me looked like the guy who directed The Rock. The promise of the movie The Rock, something like that, now looks like it might be fulfilled by this film. I can't believe I'm this excited about a Michael Bay movie, but I am locked into this film, man. This is a huge buy for me.
You know, when I saw that the trailer came out, I'm going to admit, I expected a lot of huge, flashy explosions, a circular slow-mo camera move over a guy from the feet up holding a gun saying, "Come get some, enemies of America." I expected and then some hot, girl, female soldier in tight shorts leaning over a Jeep fixing something. That's what I expected to see. And instead we got something that is real legit. And I'm excited by that.
Now when I saw Transformers Age of Extinction, I had a physical reaction as to how much I hated the movie. So I will have a nurse on hand for me just in case this goes down that path again. But I can't wait to see this movie.
Yeah. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show where it's Wednesday, which means our segment Rewind. On Rewind, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. And I also like to call this thing the Feeling Old segment, where we look at the films that came out 10 years ago this week and 20 years ago this week. Let's start with the 10-year-old mark. These films turned 10 years old today. We've got Must Love Dogs, Sky High, and Stealth. 10 years ago, these films stood out. I'll start off with this. I thought Must Love Dogs was actually kind of cute. I thought that was a cute movie. Stealth. This was the time when, the dude from I'm forgetting the actor's name again. It is Josh Lucas. When Josh Lucas, it was looking like he was going to become a major A-list star at that time. You had Jamie Foxx, who nobody thought was going to be a major A-list star, and their roles clearly reversed. Horrible movie. Oh my God, that movie was so...
It's directed by Rob Cohen, the guy who did Triple X.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I remember when it came out, I was like, this reminds me of that Clint Eastwood Firefox movie, but just not as good.
Just, minus the good.
Yeah, no, I didn't even see Stealth. I just remember seeing the trailer. I was like, not seeing it. I already saw a better version of it called Firefox. So.
And then Sky High, which I kind of dug. You got Kurt Russell as an old superhero, High School for Superheroes. And what was really cool was Linda Carter, I believe. This is one where Linda Carter was special guested in it as the principal of the superhero school. And I actually thought it was a pretty cute little movie. Not good enough to franchise it, but I thought it was pretty cute. So anyway, on the 10-year mark, which of these films stood out to you?
I loved Sky High. I thought it was a fantastic film. It was really fun. It was like all the kids whose parents are superheroes, or the kids who have superpowers. They go to this special, high school in the sky. And it was a really fun look at being super powered, but in high school. I especially remember like Taylor Kitsch. That was, I think, his first role, and he was like the guy who had flames. He was like Pyro or something like that.
I loved Kurt Russell's superhero name too. His real name was Steve Stronghold, and his superhero name was the Commander. Which anyway, any of these movies stood out to you?
Look, you guys know that I'm nothing if not brutally honest at all times, and I'll tell you this: combine all these movies, and I've seen 45 minutes of their footage. I never saw Stealth. I took a big pass on that. Sky High until about 2 minutes ago, I thought it was the movie with Method Man and Redman when they go to college. That's what I thought we were gonna see. Then I saw this other, and I'm like, oh yeah, that movie happened too. Must Love Dogs is a film that I was looking forward to. Single, chubby, rom-com loving Mark Ellis like Must Love Dogs. That's gonna be like a combination of serendipity with a little bit of Air Bud thrown in, and I fell asleep watching it. I don't remember the ending of Must Love Dogs. I don't know if they got together at the end, but I want the best for Diane Lane and John Cusack. God love you guys and all your puppies.
All right, let's move on now to the films that are even older, celebrating their 20th anniversary, their 20th birthday this week. And we've got The Net, Operation Dumbo Drop, and Waterworld. It is weird to think that 20 years ago, they're making a movie like The Net, that it was a little bit ahead of its time, because they're making movies like The Net today. About somebody can break in and get your... What was that one with Chris Hemsworth?
That's right, Black Hat.
Black Hat. I mean, it's same themes, very different films. But, somebody can go in and erase your identity in the digital age, blah, blah, blah. That was 20 years ago, and we're still making the same movies. I have to admit, I never saw Operation Dumbo Drop.
What?
I didn't feel culturally compelled to go and watch it. And then there was Waterworld, which is kind of triumphed as like, Hollywood, it was Kevin Costner's big nosedive after Dances with Wolves, that, you know, one of the biggest flops of all time. I'll be honest with you, I don't mind Waterworld. I thought it was an okay movie. I liked Waterworld, basically. It's certainly not an all-time great. But anyway, Mark, you're looking at the movies that now turn 20.
Yeah.
First of all, can you believe these movies are 20 years old? And what stands out to you?
I remember going to see The Net and just being so in love with Sandra Bullock. And when you watch The Net today, it is one of the most fun dated times of the movies you'll ever have, because they're using floppy disks, and it's just it's just such a nice time capsule, like a War Games was for the 80s. But it's still an enjoyable ride and fun little performance by Dennis Miller in The Net. Check that one out. Waterworld is the one that stands out to me, though. When I was a kid, I remember reading about Waterworld and all these problems on set. Huge Kevin Costner fan. He was so good as Robin Hood. I can't wait to see this movie, but it has all these delays and all these issues, and it's the highest budget ever. Then I saw a commercial for it on TV a couple weeks before it came out, and I'm like, that actually looks like a cool action movie. And I saw it, and I thought it was a pretty cool action movie. So it's just one of those lessons that you just take all the noise that you hear from press and all these different things. Just go see the movie and judge the movie on its own merits. Is it great? No, it's not.
Well, here's the funny thing, too, about Waterworld is that, you know, today we're like $150 million for a Gambit movie. Come on. This was 20 years ago. It was the most expensive film in history ever made at the time, $175 million budget 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, imagine how that made some studio heads explode.
And
I mean,
that's
crazy.
that's the movie that everybody was citing when they said, oh no, James Cameron's Titanic is just going to be another Waterworld because it costs so much money, it's on the water and it's hard to shoot, and then look what happened.
Yeah, for me, my memory is like I remember I was working in Atlanta, Georgia on a Space Ghost episode. I remember biking to go see Waterworld. No one wanted to see it. I went and saw it, and I was, you know, it had all of this like, it's gonna suck, this and that, like before it ever even came out, before it was ever reviewed. People were like, nah, it's gonna be horrible. And I remember seeing it, and then all my friends that I was working with were like, so what do you think? I was like, it didn't suck. Because it didn't suck. It was fun. It's like the only film that has the main hero, he can drink his own piss.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Dune, where they're wearing the still suits, that's just a survival type thing. This guy actually like has a little shaky can, like pees in it, and then drinks his own pee.
Bruce Willis will do that in Die Hard 6. That's going to happen.
That has to happen. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show now for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. So, Sinead, what's in the mailbag today?
Shahrukh writes, hi, Collider crew. Keep up the great work. I love your shows. I was just wondering, have we started to forget the great classics from the black and white era? We seldom talk about the performances of Gregory Peck, Bette Davis, Audrey Hepburn, Cary Grant, Clark Gable, among others, and movies like 12 Angry Men, Rear Window, Roman Holiday, To Kill a Mockingbird, Mutiny on the Bounty, Judgment at Nuremberg, Casablanca, for example, these days. Why don't we reference those classic era films and performances in our movie talks nowadays? Have they lost modern relevance? What are your thoughts?
Thanks a lot for the question. And I think except for Roman Holiday, I know we've talked about all those films at one point or another on the life of this show. But yeah, you raised up a great point is, you know, a part of our movie fan collective discussion, we don't go a lot, and not just us, I mean us as film fans as a whole, we don't go into these films a lot. And that's a shame. You know, part of the mission I feel like we have here on Movie Talk is we talk about all the modern stuff, but that kind of serves as a platform for us to sneak in. Oh, and by the way, if you have not seen Lawrence of Arabia, see Lawrence of Arabia. If you haven't seen the original Kirk Douglas Spartacus, watch that. If you haven't seen, you know, Bridge Over the River Kwai, make sure you watch. You know, we try to sneak in those things too because we want people who watch Movie Talk to be exposed also to, you know, cinema that maybe they haven't thought about or haven't talked about before. But at the same time, it becomes an issue of communication in a way, right? Because part of communication is using shared points of reference that you can use for allegorical impact, you know, when you're talking to somebody, so people understand what you're getting at. So, for instance, if we watched, let's say we were watching Mission Impossible and we wanted to compare the villain to something, you say, you can see elements of Heath Ledger's Joker in there, right? That's a movie we've all seen. That's a common point of reference. So you'll better understand the point it is that we're trying to communicate. If we go back and started talking about, you know, Ben-Hur, this reminds us of the Roman soldier in Ben-Hur and blah, blah. The chances are you haven't seen the original Ben-Hur and you won't understand the reference. So sometimes as just a reference and a point of communication, we'll reference movies that we know we have a shared common point of interest on or a shared common point of experience with, whereas you can't really do that with a lot of the older cinema. I like Rewind, our segments and what used to be our own show, because we do get to go in those films and we'll always be looking for ways to bring those types of films up more. But why we don't, as film fans, you and I together and all of us together, why we don't reference them a lot is because we'll alienate a whole bunch of people from the conversation if we don't, because they won't understand that reference. Hey, that's just the way I see it. Schnepp, why do you think that the classic cinema stuff isn't a more regular part of film fans' conversations?
Well, I'll use our show Rewind. I mean, we used to do a show called AMC Rewind. It just people didn't watch it. It wasn't a big numbers thing. And especially with us moving over to Collider, numbers mean something. So it's like people love to talk about film, but if you don't have that point of reference, we were doing this show to say, hey, if you didn't see this movie that happened in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, check it out. We were giving, tips to, out of the millions of films that have been made, here's like several thousand that, you should watch if you're going to delve deeper into the history of film. It's hard to get people interested in seeing black and white films nowadays. I hear that all the time from people that I talk to who haven't seen a black and white film. They're like, it's old, it's boring, it's slow. It's like, you just have to forget about all that and just kind of get into the mood of the time when this film was made. You'll enjoy it a lot more. It's like a time capsule. It's not just a film. It's most of the films that are made are always jumping back in time. They're never like, right, it was shot in 1955. It's about 1955, but most of them are. Most films that are made that year are in that time period. So it's kind of a cool way to go through history in a certain sense. And there's so many amazing films that are done just because they're made in black and white, has nothing to do with what the quality level of the filmmaking is, the directing or the writing or the stars. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you're missing out on if you're not giving that list that guy gave us, or a million other films. Like I love film noir. You just Google film noir. You'll see, Double Indemnity. You'll see Kansas City Confidential. You'll see a list of incredible films that all fall into this certain genre, a storytelling type of filmmaking. So for me, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by just staying in the present or in the last 20 years, or say you're a millennial, you're like, I don't want to see anything that happened before 1980. You're doing yourself a disservice. It's not, that you didn't see the film. I'm bummed out for you, not for me.
You know what I think we should do? Honestly, I don't know why I didn't think this before. We should put together a list, not a daunting list like a 100 or something, but maybe a list of like 30, right? Where we put together, and we'll do a video on this, the 30 films over 30 years old that if you're a film fan, you should treat yourself and watch.
Sure.
We should probably put something like that together.
That.
Like
cool.
30 films that are over 30 years old that you absolutely must make sure that you watch, and put that out, and we'll give you guys a point of reference to start from. And I love that idea. Oh, anyway,
Wait,
Mark, what do you think?
So movies existed before Jaws? That was a thing.
No, that was
happened?
the creation of the camera.
Yeah,
Steven Spielberg invented the
He
video
invented the camera, right?
Yeah,
And then he had a good shark buddy that he went to school with, and then they made a movie together. Going to John's point, then what needs to be on that list is Vertigo, is Psycho, is King Kong, is Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane. These are movies that we don't reference enough, because I think that sometimes you're like, oh, you look like your dad, but you don't necessarily say you look like your great-grandfather. So when we talk about a movie like Pixels, it steals a lot from Independence Day, which borrowed from all these other things to go all the way back to like War of the Worlds, but it's just the lineage is too far where we talk about that. So we go to the most immediate and recent point of reference. So sometimes movies get lost in the shuffle, but they shouldn't. And if you're a movie fan, you owe it to yourself to investigate how movies started to become, from talkies all the way up to the, Pixels.
Sinead, let me put you on the spot here. As the youngest person at this table with the most kids, what would you say is your favorite old film? And if you go any newer than Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're just never
Well, you know
back.
what's funny? I don't know what to consider old. Like
That's true,
I really don't know what to consider old.
Because you're dating like a 52-year-old dude, right?
Yeah, he's like, what, 55, 56, on all the children in the world. But
Hey, what the hell is this chat roulette?
Pepita just pooed in his pants again. Get over here.
But Peta does not poo in her pants, okay?
Her.
Did I say it? Yeah, Pepita, she pooed again.
No, I don't know what to consider old. When I say old, everyone's always like, "Oh my gosh, shut up." She said old. Okay, I'm 23. So I
Really?
saw 23.
Oh, that's
I'm sorry to break it to you guys. I always talk about this because I saw the original Indiana Jones last year for the very first time, and it stole me. Like, it was like, oh my God.
I'm a little bit envious, actually, that you got to watch for the first time.
It was unbelievable. Like, I was like, I cannot believe I've waited this long to see a movie like this. A lot of the movies that we talked about in Mailbag, actually, I was forced to watch because of school. Casablanca,
Right.
To Kill a Mockingbird. I love To Kill a Mockingbird. So, like, I have seen black and white movies, a lot of... what's his name? Marlon Brando. Like he
Right.
did a whole era or like a whole unit on that in English, I remember. So I've seen a lot of black and white movies. I get more lost in the 60s, 70s, and then it picks back up in the 80s
Right.
for me. I also saw Ferris Bueller for the first time last year too, and everyone's always like, oh my God, I can't believe you waited so long. That movie too, I'll watch every single day for the rest of my life. I love it so much. See, so for me, it's like I've seen a lot of that because that is what we were forced to.
Right.
For me, a list that you guys are talking about, I think it's an amazing idea because a lot of the movies that I have been introduced has been because of being a part of first AMC and now Collider. That for me, that's the 60s, 70s, and about half of the 80s that is just gone. Like there's no
yeah, and you're not
knowledge.
alone. That's a great point. And it's funny you mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark. Anne watched Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time like a year and a half ago, and it was great. One of the great things about being in LA is that a lot of the movie theaters will play the old classic movies,
Yes.
and they were playing all the Indiana Jones films. And she's like, "We're going to go to the theater and watch all of them on the big screen. That's how I want to see them for the first time." I'm like, "Right on, babe, let's go." And she watched the first Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And she's like, well, she swore, I won't swear, but she goes, Harrison Ford was sexy. I'm like,
Yeah, he's so
and then
hot.
she was just like watching every Indiana Jones movie after that. So, all right, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great movies playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Become a subscriber. Keep up to date on all the videos that we're putting out here at Collider Video, and maybe you might be able to hear the podcast today. More on that another time. I want to introduce. I want to thank, first of all, the guys. We're going to get started now, everybody. That was all the warm-up. I want to thank the guy sitting at the table with me, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you
You
online?
guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me in the crowd scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's
Shake It
right.
Up, baby.
Stop
I
it.
was
He is,
on
he
set.
is.
Oh my
I saw John
gosh.
Hughes directing from it was one of my first experiences in Chicago.
Shaking a baby? Wait,
Yeah.
hold on.
No,
In
he's
the
not
crowd
shaking a
scene-
baby. No,
Shake It Up,
His
Baby.
song
Shake
Shake
It
It
Up,
Up.
baby.
Shaking
Yeah,
Shake It
John
Up,
Hughes
baby.
has
a
his
baby in the crowd.
Yeah, Donka Shane, remember Donka Shane? Let's shake it up, baby.
Yeah.
Shake, twist and shout. Sorry, it's twist and shout. So anyway, you can find me in that. You'll have to freeze frame it. I'm in one shot. It's the wide shot. There's balloons jumping around. I'm there. I had half of my head shaved. That's
Oh
right.
my God, that's
So
amazing.
you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, like I said, and go to www.tdoslwh.com to find out more about my film, The Death of Superman Lives. What happened? You can get a digital download or a Blu-ray. Thanks.
And of course, Mr. Mark Schnepp, you'll find him on Chat
Chat
Roulette
Roulette.
and other places. Mark, where can people
You'll
find you online?
find me at home trying to freeze frame the scene with Jon Schnepp and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I will tweet that picture as soon as I get it at 5150Ls. And when you're on iTunes looking for the latest Miley Cyrus ballad, check out my comedy album, Get to the Castle.
And of course, our lovely host today, Miss Sinead DeFries. Sinead, where can people find you?
Well, when I'm not cleaning diapers and Pepita's poo off the floor, I am on the internet on Instagram and Twitter at Sinead DeFries and at that'soshnade.com.
And you can find me on various social media networks simply at Jon Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. My name's Jon Campea, and until next time, Wrecking Ball.